Not. Hopefully I'll have more topics. I'm sure we will. Anyway, we are back with Linda Patterson, and our studio audience is here sitting next to her. I say studio audience because she's the only one here. And she's going to have her palm read. And while she's doing that, I guess, Linda, we're going to talk a little bit about what each line means, the significance of the lines. So,
left or right?
Carol's here, and she's got an interesting dilemma. She's both left-handed and right-handed. So what kind of position do you start in with that?
Yeah, I guess I would, because you write with your left hand, I think I'm going to read you more as a lefty. Mm-hmm. I know this is probably not a comfortable position for you. I apologize. I like to sit next to people when I read their palms. I think one of the things I love the most about palm reading is I get to hold your hands. You're a little stubborn, a little willful, which is not necessarily a bad thing. You have long palms and long fingers. You're a water person. You tend to be more emotional, more sensitive, and as well as possibly more creative. I always like to compare one hand to the other hand, and I like to look at the fingers. Your fingers have always been about the same. This actually, if reading you as a lefty, this Jupiter is longer than this Apollo. Whereas here, they're almost about the same length. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you do it this way, though.
Yeah. So even more. This is much shorter on this hand than it is on this hand. Do you see? So if I read this as past, what I would see is that ambition used to mean more to you, getting ahead and leadership and those sorts of things. And now the self-fulfillment. It's not as important to you anymore to be at the top, to be in charge. A day off in the sun is nice. So those things are getting to be more and more important. You have a little bit of a bend to that pinky on both hands, which tends to mean you're diplomatic. If somebody invites you to dinner and they serve you a horrible meal, you're probably going to tell them it was good.
Oh, so she's a liar.
Thanks, Steve.
If it were really crooked, then I'd be looking for different words. You have a nice angle of generosity. People, you don't have a problem opening up to people. That nice warmth about you. And I'll just take a minute to look at the lines. So the top line on the hand is the heart line.
As everybody goes at home, like, what?
Never read your own palm. A line is like a river. The clearer, the cleaner, the deeper the line, the better. The more phrase there are on a line, the more intense that line. Your line is relatively short, but it's very, very heavily frayed, which means you're an emotional person. So you've got a water hand to start, which makes you emotional, and then your heart line is very frayed. Also, there's some islands here. An island. Can you see that island? I don't think that.
I was looking at mine. I'm looking for the phrase.
Sometimes that can mean a little touch of sorrow. The heart line is read from the pinky over, 5, 25, 35. So this is very early in your life. And a lot of us have struggles with our childhood. The second line is the head line, which is the middle line. Cuts your palm in half. And if the line is long enough and it cuts your palm in half, which over here it's getting a little longer, it can tend to mean a bit of perfectionism. Are you a bit of a perfectionist? And this line again has got some phrase to it. It gets very strong though and clear in the end. And on the headline, when there are phrase, it tends to mean you can be distracted. I have a messy headline. And people who are very, very psychic almost have no headline at all. It's such a mess. And it's because they're getting messages constantly from all over, and they can't concentrate on anything. So you can be distracted. Now, this is your lifeline, which is the line that comes down and goes around the thumb usually. Except for yours, it goes on to the other side of your hand. Because your life is very outward, and which makes sense with the line of work you do. But your headline and your lifeline do not touch. Most people's do. Yours runs together for a long time. This means totally uninhibited. If somebody said, "Hey, want to go skydiving?" you'd probably
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. you would be more likely to take a risk than a lot of people do. I mean, I don't know if you're afraid of heights, but But when I see his palm that is tied for a long time, this I usually read as someone who's tied tightly to your mother's apron strings for a long time when you're a kid. Unable to make your own choices when you were young. Your mother kept a close eye on you?
I don't really remember.
Oh, I think I'm embarrassed.
No. No, I don't really remember, but we could talk about that later.
I don't know. It's unfortunate. I don't know how much people can see of this palm. You have some nice rising lines. You have nice Mercurian skills, meaning you're probably good at conversation. He's laughing.
So that's why we can't get any work done. I'm sorry.
So
she is a very good conversation.
You have the lines across the mound of Venus as well, and you don't take as good a care of yourself as maybe you could, because that mound is kind of small.
Okay.
You probably tend to stay up all night and burn the candles at both ends. But you have that grid work. Not only do you have lines going in one direction, you have them going in the other direction, which usually indicates you like lots of hugs and kisses.
Uh-huh.
Well, it is a cable show.
And you have a nice lifeline. You have a nice lifeline, and you've got some nice rising lines off that lifeline, which is great. And this is amazing, nice and long, and it comes down around and hugs your thumb. And there's a little bit of splitting there, not much though. And when it comes down and hugs the thumb like that, it usually means you like to come home. Home means a lot to you. Travel's fine, but you like to come home. So you've got on both hands you have a Mercury line. It's a line that goes up to the pinky, which says you're very good at communication.
Does that run off the heart line?
It usually runs right from the center of the palm. Not everyone has one.
Okay.
You have a marriage and a loss line, and these are minor lines. These are lines that people don't usually talk about. They're lines that fall right here. And a marriage line comes straight across, and a loss line comes across and then curves down. I don't know, maybe one of your parents, a loss in your life. And I know people who have many, many marriage lines, and it doesn't necessarily mean a spouse. You can be married to a job, a career. It just means you're capable of making a commitment to more than one thing in your life. And you have a couple of children lines, which are the little lines that fall underneath the pinky. And they used to be considered children lines, and the old gypsies would count them and say, oh, you're going to have 4 children. But today we can manipulate that too much. So we read them as caring lines. People who with children lines usually care enough to get involved. There are people who are on the school committee or who belong to Greenpeace. There are people who get involved, not usually people that sit around saying, what a shame. They're people who usually care enough. You have some nice Apollo lines, which are here, and they represent our interests. You have one really strong Apollo line. There's something that is your passion in life. And then you have little offshoots of that. And you have always had this, whatever it is, great love. And you have on this hand, this is interesting, this is a ring of Solomon. You actually have it on both hands. It's a ring that takes in just the mound of Jupiter. And it represents in intuition. Do you consider yourself intuitive? Yeah, you certainly have the signs for it. And I don't see too much of the teacher's squares. But and in all honesty, I don't see anything that's hellacious. You have some nice Luna there, which is creativity. And I don't even see that much interference. You have some worry. You tend to worry. And that could go along with your hand being so watery and emotional. But other than that, you have a nice palm.